Welcome to another episode of Reason for Truth. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo, in studio today with Mr. Tony Casello, compadre. Tony, welcome to Reason for Truth.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, man, today I was going to call it Christmas with Casello. It's got a ring to it, man. Greetings, everyone. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. This is Reason for Truth, the channel and the organization that helps you, both Christians and, non-Christians, cut through the fog of culture's distorted truth, because in our relative world, the truth, doesn't change. Just doesn't. It's absolute. But the human will to distort it certainly does. We help you cut through the distortion here on this channel of the current events and to see the truth here as an antidote to the false messages, and there's lots of them out there that are so pervasive in our world today. But before we get started, make sure you get a little house cleaning here. Make sure you subscribe, share this with others. Listen, it's the holiday season. We share our love with others. Let's share this Reason for Truth, okay? Subscribe, and then bam, Gonzalo Sedistro, that little alert bell down there. And give us, if you're on podcast, give us a high rating. Share this with others. That'd be really appreciated. Listen, Christmas is a time that most of us feel, not all, but most of us feel joyful. We feel happy. We celebrate time with family. We celebrate Christmas traditions. And this is the time of year that we wrap the house in lights. Went to my buddy's house last night. He's a Messianic Jew. And we had him and our buddy Alex. And boy, he's my Messianic Jewish friend. He had the house, Tony, wrapped, man. It was decked out, beautiful. His wife, Christine, did a wonderful job. Lights inside and out. And listen, we bake until we drop, cookies. Christmas is my favorite time of year because it's really a time, Tony, not only I'm able to slow down. It's about the only time I'm able to slow down and spend some time with family and bond with them and my friends more deeply. It's also a personal time of reflection upon life. For me, it's always a time where I just think we get the New Year's coming. It just slows down. It's when we slow down, we tend to think, which is a good thing, I think. Even if it's deep, it's a good thing. It's time of personal reflection upon life and the birth of Christ and celebrating that. It's, Jesus is the reason for the season. We've heard that. It's, Christmas symbolizes the love of God in that he sent his only begotten son down to earth for you and I. And there's no greater love than that. We just did an episode called God is Love and God is Christmas. You don't want to miss that. I'll put a link to that below. And listen, appreciate Tony being with us today. Welcome to the program, Tony.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here.
Few questions. Listen, for you, what is the best part of Christmas to you personally? We talked on another episode we just did on all the food that takes a month of celebration. What is the best part of Christmas for you personally?
Yeah, Steve, as a kid, of course, the best part was the presents. Getting up in the morning and, leaving the cookies out for Santa, and mom or dad or brother would eat them. And as a little kid, I would think it was Santa coming down the chimney. Yep. And that was great. I loved getting up Christmas morning, running to the living room. If it was snowing outside, it just added that extra layer of Christmas spirit. But as you get older, we realize there's a more important message behind Christmas. And even though in our culture, it's just become a kind of consumerism and it's all about, buying stuff for people and presents. But on a spiritual level, Steve, the greatest gift that we've received is from God himself. And he sent his son. And it's a message that if you're a Christian, we're very familiar with. But he sent his son to seek and to save the lost. He sent his son into the world, a free gift of salvation.
And that leads to my next question. The terms of the gift. Why do we celebrate Christmas? Why do we give gifts? I mean, that's the greatest gift. So is that a symbolic thing? Why do we give gifts to others? And why is receiving gifts as important as giving gifts on Christmas?
It should be symbolic of that, Steve. And the reason why is because we recognize how much God has given us and we're to follow his example. And Jesus gave his life. And in the Christmas spirit, we just want to reciprocate to others what God has done for us.
Yeah, isn't that true though? And I think our culture, Tony, sadly, is going more towards a receiving is better than giving. And I think I was called Tony this morning. He was busy. We got a late start, but he was giving of himself to somebody who needed some help. And I think that's great too. We need to make sure we're there for people, make sure we're giving to people, not just taking. Now we talked a little bit in the last episode. If you missed it, Tony's got a cool tradition. What was that tradition? You play a game, don't you, Tony, on Christmas?
Yep, that's right. I was saying earlier we play a game very similar to our bingo, and it's called Tombola.
Tombola. Is it
Yep.
Tumbla?
I believe it's Tombolo.
Okay.
Tomb-
Wonderful.
Bola. Tombola.
Now, how long do you guys spend eating on Christmas? We do the average Italian dinner is about 3 hours, but Christmas, I tend at my house growing up, definitely pushed out at 3 hours, especially if you had guests from out of town, because you're sitting around. I mean, we could spend the day at the table, for real. I don't know if the same was true for you.
Right, Steve. No, that's absolutely right. And usually, in my family, they'll have people coming in and out kind of throughout the day. So one group of people might come in and sit down and eat a little bit, and then another group might come in and we'll eat with both groups. So it becomes basically a whole day type of event.
It is. And the whole thing is the second group, they haven't eaten. That's it usually. So they're coming in, and oh my gosh, we had the same thing. It sometimes, oh my gosh, but the second time, but you had to eat because it was good, and there was and they always brought new stuff, a lot of desserts. So, hey, listen, you wait an hour or so, maybe two, man, you jump back in there. When you're done, man, you're sleeping. And you feel like one of them gremlin shows, man, where the belly's just kind of mounted, like, mountain here. I don't think you could see your toes if you're laying in bed. Your stomach's like, whoop.
Oh, yeah.
What is Christmas? We talked a little bit about this, but what does Christmas mean to you personally? Just the whole idea of it.
Yeah, Steve. The meaning of Christmas for me personally, I love spending time with my family. That's of course, up there on the list. But ultimately, it's to recognize, what Jesus has done for us.
Yeah.
And him coming to the earth. In Philippians 2, we call it the incarnation, God in flesh, or God with us. And that's really the true biblical meaning, is that God himself came into the world.
Isn't that the truth? In a time with family, I mean, if you even think about Christmas over the years, you look even Jesus being born in a manger. The whole family wasn't there, but certainly mom and dad was, and that was their first child. So, in a sense, we celebrate it just like the first Christmas was either the birth of Christ. We're just celebrating their, bringing the birth of Christ into the world. But I think family is a huge sense, and not everybody has family to spend. Some people may, have lost a loved one. Perhaps they're married. Sometimes some people are in a bad marriage. Some people are not married at all. So there's other people who you've lost a parent in the last year. There's a lot of people in pain, and so we need to be praying for our friends and make sure, hey, if you're watching this or listening, make sure that nobody's left behind. Nobody should be alone on Christmas Day. Make sure you invite them over, graft them into your family. That's called hospitality. And I know in the Christmas home, my good buddy, Mike Amy, we were just before, it was in December, and I looked at him, Tony, and I said, hey, what are you doing for Christmas? He did say things. He's one of those guys that just didn't say a whole lot. He did, but he just, things like this, he just, certain things he kept to himself. And my family knew him. He was like family to us. And he was at my house every Sunday. We did wash in college, and, would eat dinner with us. And on Sundays, we always do. And I remember him just saying, well, I don't have plans for Christmas. I'm like, what? I know this guy pretty well. We're like best friends. I said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, my parents divorced. And I said, well, why don't you, did you call just go with your mom? My mom. I mean, Tony, I'm sure, I think same it's true with you. I mean, a spaceship with aliens with nuclear weapons couldn't keep, my mom away from her children on Christmas. She wouldn't have it ever to celebrate alone, certainly. And so it just wasn't. So I said, well, she says she's going with her new boyfriend down to Texas. I said, well, what what about your dad? I mean, Dad's got. I was surprised at the mom. He said, well, he's going with his girlfriend, and the mom said go with the dad. Dad said go with his mom. So I called my mom Vita, right? I said, Mom means life in Italian. I said, Ma. I said, listen, Mike Amy, he doesn't. My friend. I said, Ma, my friend Mike. Mike doesn't have anywhere to go for Christmas. She goes, you got to be kidding me. She goes, I won't hear it. You just bring him over. Nobody will be left alone on Christmas. And we got there on Christmas, Tony, and my entire family, not just my mom, my entire family bought him gifts. He had as many gifts as anybody else did. And he told me years ago, he said, Steve, I don't think you understand what that means, the impact that had on my life. It just shows it's a great time to share Christ, to be Christ, and to share the gift of Christmas, which is love and giving without receiving. And I think that's exactly what Tony has helped us today, certainly to understand, certainly what Jesus, came to do. He came as the one gift, right? He didn't take anything back with him. He gave his life, and it started by him coming, the Father giving his only begotten Son birthed in a manger or some kind of farmhouse or some kind of area, maybe even outside on a stone in a small covered area. Everyone thinks it's just like, the nativity scene. It's not exactly quite like that. But anyways, that's your reason for truth for today. It's better to give. I should call this episode, it's better to give than receive. Listen, don't stop now. We have well over 600 audio podcasts on the Reason for Truth channel, as well as we have over 100 videos, as well as EquippedAcademy.com has been very generous to us this year. We're here to help you cut through some of the distortions or some of the folklore that you're seeing in Christmas and in the media for just regular news. And as an antidote, we want to be an antidote to the false messages that are so pervasive in our world today, as you want to help you live a more meaningful, faith-filled, and vibrant life in the turbulent world that we live in. And so if you want to interact with Reason for Truth more deeply, then just go to reasonfortruth.org, reasonfortruth.bible, and make sure you subscribe on us. Make sure we have a contact button there as well. Get a shout out to EquippedAcademy.com. Check them out for they just have a new Basics and Apologetics online course certificate program. I want to check that out, and I say that because they've been very good to us. Learn how you can get equipped. Thank you for watching Reason for Truth with your host, Stevie Garofalo, with good buddy here, Tony Casella, and God bless you. Merry Christmas season. This is your Reason for Truth for today.